Yeah, so I wanted to do a little bit of a more grounded, I got it. So I was debating what to do, but I'm going to do the authorship of Gemara, of Tanach a little bit, and maybe focus on Iyov, we'll see. But I just needed something that was less weird than everything that was going on.
I love how it's like, oh yes, less weird Iyov.
Okay, Iyov is weird, but I'm tired of giant mythical creatures. I just need a break. I need a break. My head is exploding. I'm good. Fine. So, Tana Rabbanan, Sidran Shel Nevi'im. What's the order of the Nevi'im? Yudalin and Ben. Sorry. Yeah. So Sidran Shel Nevi'im. Yoshua, the Shoftim, Shmuel, Melachim, Yirmiyah, Yechezkel, Yeshaya, Shneim Asar. Okay? So that's basically our order, yes? No, not actually 100%. Or in most Tanakh, you'll find Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu, Yechezkel.
When did the name go from anyone such as Treyasar?
I mean, it's just Aramaic. Treyasar is just Aramaic. That's all. Okay, so first question, which I was going to give a shir on, but now I will just review it with you because Schechter gave it. Let's see how well you remember it. What makes something be part of Nevi'im as opposed to part of Ktuvim? Schechter, even though my internet was shaky, I know that he raised the several possibilities. So one possibility, the Rambam's idea is higher level Nevi'im, lower level Nevuah, right? Which is a problem. What's the problem with that? Some of the authors fall in both sections, like Shmuel, both wrote, as we'll see, wrote both Shmuel and Ruth, right? And so, that creates a mild problem. Or Yirmiyahu writes Yirmiyahu and Eicha. So this creates a problem. So what else did he say? So Reb Chaim's vort is that it depends. Was it meant to be written down primarily or meant to be spoken to the people? Things were meant to be told to the people were in Nevi'im. Things that are meant to be written down as a book, lechatchila, right, rather than prophecies that were then written down, are in Ktuvim. There are other possible distinctions, right? I don't remember how many Rav Schechter went through, 3 or 4 different possibilities. I don't remember how much he actually went through. My internet was in and out, but okay, fine. So then the Gemara says, Michdei, Hosea Kadim, Dichtiv Tchilat V'Hashem BeHosea. Hosea is first. How do you know? Because it says Tchilat V'Hashem BeHosea. V'chi'im Hosea diber Tchila, v'alo Moshe v'ad Hosea kama Nevi'im hayu. What do you mean? There were so many Nevi'im between Moshe and Hosea. V'amar Rabbi Yochanan she'etchila arba'a Nevi'im shenamu ba'oto ha'perek. He said, no, there were 4 Nevi'im, and this is just important in general to know in Tanakh, at that time, pre-destruction, that were prophesying and getting the Jews to try to do tshuva in advance. Ve'eluhein Hosea, Yeshaya, Amos, Umicha. So if that's the case, v'lekadme lo Hosea b'reisha, so why don't you put Hosea first? So he says, Cheva dechtiv nevuatei gave Chagai, Zcharia, Umalachi. V'chagai, Zcharia, Umalachi, sof Nevi'im havu. Chashiv lei behadayu. So he says, right, since their nevuot is with Chagai, Zcharia, Malachi, or the end, so it goes there. V'lichdu lichudei v'lichadmei. So he said, that's very nice, but why don't you just put Hosea first and leave Chagai, Zcharia, and Malachi at the end? So he just says, no, either zutar mirchas. What does that mean? Since the Treyasar are small books, you can't do that, because they'll get lost. Right? This is a practical organizational decision. You don't want them to get lost, so you put all the small Nevi'im together so that it's in one book, so that it doesn't get lost. That's all. So Michdei, Yeshaya kadim Yirmiyah, Yeshaya should be before Yirmiyah, V'chezkel kadme l'Yeshaya, V'chezkel, kadim Yirmiyah v'chezkel, isn't Yeshaya before Yirmiyah and Yechezkel, which indeed we have in our times. Likdei Yeshaya bereisha. He says, Chevan de Melachim sofei churbana. Since the end of Malachim is Korban Abayit, V'yirma kulia churbana, and Yirmiyahu is all destruction. V'yechezkel reishei churbana v'stei v'nechemta, and Yechezkel starts out with Korban and ends with consolation. V'shaya kulei nechemta, but Yeshayahu is all Nechama. Samchin and Churbanan leChurbanan v'Nechemta leNechemta. Okay, you put Churban next to Churban, Nechama versus Nechama. That's okay. Let's just sort of familiarize ourselves with Gemara here. Sidron Shel Ktuvim. What's the order of Ktuvim? Now this is completely different than what we have in our Tanakh. Ruth, Sefer Tehillim, Iyov, Umishlei, Kohelet, Shir Hashirim, Kinot, which is Echad, Daniel, Megillat Esther, Ezra, Udivrei Hayamim. Now this is more or less in chronological order, right? Yes, is that clear? No. Ruth is, when does Ruth take place? What? How do you know that? Because it says in the first pasuk, "Vahivi mei shvot hashoftim." This is not a guess. The first pasuk in Ruth is this happened during the time of the shoftim. Hint: it happens in the time of the shoftim. Great. Hint. Good. Next is Sefer Tehillim, because that's David. Iyov we'll get to whenever that is. Mishlei, Kohelet, Shir Hashirim, or Shlomo. Kinot is Yirmiyahu is after the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. Daniel is during the 70 years between, right? Meaning because Daniel is one of the early people exiled at the beginning of the period of destruction, going into the 70 years between. Megillat Esther, which is the end of that period at some point. Ezra, which is the beginning of, right? And Divrei Hayamim, which is a retelling of the stories of Shmuel Malachim, written in the time of right in the time by the Anshe Knesset Agdola, essentially, right at the end. Okay. And Malachim and Shmuel, very good. So this is one of the major questions in Divrei Hayamim. Divrei Hayamim is understood to be the first historiographical work, right? It's a retelling of the story meant to both teach people the theology post-Korban, right, of rebuilding, and theologically ground Malchut Beit David. Those seem to be the two goals of Divrei Hayamim, as opposed to Shmuel Malachim, which are more historical than historiographical. It's an interesting discussion, right? Divrei Hayamim requires a lot of study in that sense. We did it at some point, but I don't know if was it 3 years ago or 2 years ago. Were you here when we did Ziring Authorship? No. I mean, last year or 2 years ago. Must have been 2 years ago then. Okay. The beginning of Ziring Authorship starts in the beginning of time. Yes, from Adam Harishon. But 90% of it is Shmuel Malachim stories, right? It's a very weird historiographical work. A lot of it has to be studied for that reason, because like it leaves out minor historical details like Yetziat Mitzrayim, like mild things, right? Right? Mild things. Fine. So. Fine. Ulamandi Amar Iyov b'mei Moshe. I think we're probably going to try to. I want to focus a little bit on Iyov, but let's try to just at least ground ourselves in what is going on here. Ulamandi Amar Iyov b'mei Moshe haya likadmei Iyov bereisha. If Iyov happened in the time of Moshe, why don't you put it at the beginning? No, it's chulei b'paranita lo mitchalinan. You don't start with punishment and torture and doom and despair. Yeah.
Okay, then why don't you put Iyov second?
Why don't you put Iyov? No, I mean, no, it was weird, right? Yes, Yehonathan's meme sums it up, right? I assume he sent it to everyone else and not just me at the beginning of the year. No? Yonatan sent me a meme on Iyov, which was, first one is the Satan saying to God, I double dare you to torture Iyov to see what he'll do. Deal. Next one. God, why is this happening to me? My thoughts are so beyond you. Right? This is basically the weirdness of Iyov. Yeah, it's a really weird book. We got it. It's a really weird book. Okay? Ruth Nami Paranati. Isn't Ruth also bad? Why is it beginning to do that? No. Paranati Itbe Achrit. It has an end to it. Because she eventually has David, who sings to God, Riveyu. Umi Ketavan, who wrote all the books? So, Moshe Katav Svaro, Moshe wrote his book, Uparshat Bilam, That's going to be a shir in and of itself around Parshat Bilam, and Rice Sklar might give it. I think he wanted to give it. But just know that what the heck Parshat Bilam is a very good question. Is it Parshat Balak or a book that exists that we don't know what it is? Ritva, right? Ritva is like, yes, it's another book that's out there somewhere. Yes.
Why is it
I don't know. It's a good question. Iyov, and Moshe wrote Iyov according to this. Yoshua katav saro shmona psukim Shabbat Torah. Yoshua wrote his book, i.e. Yoshua, on the last 8 psukim of the Torah, according to Machlokes here in the Gemara, which is a little bit later. Shmuel katav saro. Shmuel wrote his book, Vishoftim, and he also wrote Shoftim, Virut, and the book of Ruth. Now again, each of these lines is really important, because when the Gemara says that Shmuel wrote Shoftim, so suddenly you realize, what's the import of that statement?
It's being written by a person who is trying to show what happened.
Correct. Shmuel is the person who anoints the first king, and the theme of Shoftim over and over is this is what happens when you don't have a king. And suddenly you realize that's why it makes sense, because the person who's going to appoint the king, even though he's not thrilled with it at the beginning, retrospectively he's justifying the king, right? So these authorship comments are important. David katav sefer Tehillim al yidei asar zkenim. David compiled Tehillim, writing some of it and collecting the work of 10 zkenim. Al yidei Adam Harishon, al yidei Malki Tzedek, al yidei Abraham, al yidei Moshe, al yidei Heman, al yidei Yidutun, al yidei Asaf, al yidei Shlosha bnei Korach. Yirmiyah katav svaro v'sefer Melachim v'kinot. Yirmiyah wrote Sefer Yirmiyahu, Melachim, and Eicha. Chizkiah v'siyato katvu Yeshayam nishlei shir hashirim v'kohelet. Right, he wrote down the things that originated from Shlomo plus Yeshayahu. Anshe Knesset Agdola katvu. No. Chizkiah v'siyato katvu Yoshua. Right, sorry. I'm taking as a go. Katvu Yechezkel, Shnei Masar, Daniel, Megillat Esther. Ezra katav Svaro. Right, Esther wrote his book, V'yachas shel divrei yamim adlo, and the genealogies until him. Misai le Rav Damarav Yehuda Marav lo Ezra mi Bavel ad sheyiches atzmo. That Ezra didn't leave Bavel until he wrote down his own ichos. Okay, let's stop there for a minute. Now, I'm sorry, Man Askin, who finished in Nehemiah ben Chachaliah. So these authorships, most of them have a very basic logic to them, right? There are certain things that can be analyzed, and you'll tell me how many of them you want to focus on. So, for example, Moshe writing the Torah is obvious. Yoshua writing his book, no big chiddush there. Shmuel writing Shoftim is an important statement because it tells you that in the eyes of Chazal, Shoftim is a book that's written to justify what happens in Shmuel, meaning how do you get to Melucha? That's important. Saying that David is the organizer of Tehillim, okay, fine. One of the big questions that the Mefarshim deal with is what about the parts of Tehillim that seem very much to be written way after David? Like, name at least one parak of Tehillim that seems to have been written way after David. Al Naharot Bavel, right? Things like that, which is only the mildest problem of it. The bigger problem is that what happens after parak Ayin Bet and Tehillim? How does parak Ayin Bet Tehillim end? I think it's Ayin Bet, or Sefer Sheni of Tehillim. This is the end of David's song. That's how it ends.
Are there also some that start off with Shlomo?
Yeah, there are also ones for Shlomo. Yeah, it's a little bit of a problem, but especially the ones that seem to be written in the time of the Churban. That's a big problem. That's hundreds of years, which obviously one approach is that written by Nevuah, but there are other positions that no. Maybe our Gemara thought that it only had 10 authors up till David, but maybe not. Right, so there are midrashim, and the Maharzu takes this as his conclusion that Tehillim is written up to Churban Abayit. Right, Al Naharot Bavel is written Al Naharot Bavel, exactly as it sounds like, not prophetically. Yes, Lam Naseach Levnei Korach Mizmor. Right, many of the books of Tehillim are like that. Right, Lam Naseach Levnei Korach. You never heard that one? Yeah, okay. They didn't make it up. It's there. they're Levium singers, seemingly.
Is that all we know about them?
Yeah, basically. Okay. Which are the ones?
Yes, I know they would be.
Right. The one that let's try to focus on today, the one that is the weirdest, obviously, is Iyov. Now, I will note that if you go to the Gemara, if you skip down to the Sudat, the Gemara just clarifies that obviously when we say they wrote their books, we mean most of them. So like, Yoshua wrote Yoshua until he died. Then Elazar wrote, and Yoshua died. Fine. Right? Correct. And then Pinchas wrote that Elazar died. And Shmuel wrote the book until he died. And then Gad and Natan, who were the two other main Nevi'im for David, they write the rest of the book. Okay, fine. So they clarify a little bit later on. And then, they ask, what about Tehillim? What about Eitan Ezrachi? Isn't he one of the authors? Answer, that's Avraham. Okay, so they think Avraham contributed to Tehillim.
Can we just go back also? Why is Shmuel the correct original Shmuel?
He's not.
I'm saying, why doesn't this say, Shmuel and then someone else?
It does, I just said that.
I'm saying, why doesn't any original say this?
Because he wrote, he started the book.
The guy is
24 chapters in.
half a minute.
Yeah, half of it in, okay. I don't know. And then it's finished by Natan and Gad. Okay. Fine. So the one that is clearly the weirdest of all of them is Iyov. Let's try to understand what the Gemara is getting at when it says who wrote Iyov. Okay, let's try. So if you look at the end of, towards the end of the Gemara where it starts saying Iyov on the side, the Gemara here brings many positions. The Yerushalmi is even more, but we'll see how many we get through them and try to understand them. Because my contention, especially by Iyov, is that the Gemara, because Iyov is so confusing and no one knows what it means, right? I told you, I had a professor in YU who worked on the JPS. Jacob, could you just grab me my Tanach? It's in my bag. I'm stuck in a box. So you know how the JPS sometimes has it's in the big pocket. Yeah, got it. Yeah, has a hapex legomena. So when hapex legomena, a word that appears only once in Tanakh, hapex legomena. So then there'll be a little footnote that says meaning of Hebrew uncertain. Right? You ever see this in the JPS? Meaning of Hebrew uncertain in the footnote? Okay, well, in the footnote, sometimes it'll say meaning of Hebrew uncertain, right? He said that in the office at JPS, they really just wanted to put a footnote before Iyov, meaning of book uncertain, right? Right? So that's the one where the authorship question really is trying to get at different themes in the book. Great, because who wrote it and when it was written tell you what you think this book is. So what I want to do is try to tease it out, right? Like I said, I wanted less weirdness. Yes, this is weird because Iyov is weird, but it's a different weird. Right? Let's see what it mentions. So the Gemara says, Moshe katav svaro parshat Bilam v'Iyov. He wrote his book, Parshat Bilam, again, bracket that, at Iyov. Misayele l'Rebbe Levi bar Lachma, De'amar Levi bar Lachma, Iyov b'mei Moshe haya. Levi bar Lachma is the one who says Iyov was written in the time of Moshe. What's his proof? K'tiv hacha mi yitain efo v'ichdevun mili Uchtiv hatam uvame yivada efo. Okay, so someone wanted to explain to me what exactly the Gemara just did when it tried to figure out what Moshe did, right? This is a very weird thing. Moshe wrote it. How do I know? Gzeira shaveh, of some sort. Now, what's the obvious problem with this? Well, yes, exactly. And the Gemara itself already picks up. Ve'ema b'mei Yitzchak, dichtiv mi efo hu atzad sayin. Ve'ema b'mei Yaakov, dichtiv in kain efo zot asu. Ve'ema b'mei Yosef, dichtiv efo hem roim. A Gzera Shava from the word Epho? You couldn't get a better word to do a Gzera Shava? I'm like, Epho comes up in the time of Yitzchak and the time of Yaakov. That's not like a super uncommon word.
The fact that, like, we say that, like, sure, Moshe wrote the Torah, but God told him what to write.
No, Epho. This is how we get to, so.
And the Epho appears, please tell me Epho appears somewhere in the Torah, and then you just say, like,
Epho appears in all types of places.
yeah. Like, it's very common.
Right? So, one way of understanding this is to say that this is just a Havamin of Gzera Shava, which fails miserably, and we move on. Right? That's one way of understanding this. The alternative, though, is to figure out, is the Gemara saying something conceptually? So, what perek does he quote from Moshe? The pasuk of Avameh Ivada Epho. Let's see how well you know Tanach. I don't expect you to know Iyov by heart. Right? Let me read you one thing. We'll read you the pasuk in Iyov. One sec. It's Kitisa. Very good. Okay. So the pasuk by Iyov is this. Chanuni, chanuni, atem re'ai, right? Pity me, you are my friends. Kiyad Eloana gabi, because God has struck me. Lomer tirdifuni kimo el, sari lo tisba. Why are you chasing me like God? Maligning me insatiably. Mi tene fo yichdavun mili. If only my words would be written down. Mi yitain v'sefer v'yachoku. If only my words were inscribed forever. Wait, and now let's go to the pasuk that the Gemara is quoting in Shmot Lamed Gimel. Okay? Shmot Lamed Gimel is what? Is after the Egel, very good, where God says, no, later than that. I'm not going to destroy the Jews, but I'm not coming with you. Right? V'shalachti lefanecha malach. I'll send you to Israel, but with a malach. It's post-destruction. And what does Moshe say? Don't do that. I want you with me. Right? I want you with the Jewish people to actually have a relationship with you. So God, teach me your ways. Meaning, the ways. According to the Gemara in Bracha, what does he mean when he says, teach me the three secrets of theodicy, of Tzaddik Viralo, Virash V'Tovlo, why good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. Right? Uvameh, and God says, okay. And what does Moshe say? Uvameh yivada eifo ki matzati chen beinecha. How will I know that you've agreed to my request? Which, according to Chazal, is teach me about theodicy. Why good things happen to bad people, bad things happen to good people. Now, what do you think? Do you think that this was a Stam Gzer Shaveh, right? Or do you think the claim that Moshe wrote it, taking a pasuk where there are two things going on in this parak? One is that he wants to rebuild a lost relationship with God, and two is he wants to know, more importantly, why bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people. Do you think, the little you know of Sefer Iyov, that the Gemara may have been making a thematic claim when it said Moshe wrote Iyov? Yes, I would assume, right, that the Gemara is saying, aha! Why did Moshe write it? Because Moshe is the first person to challenge God to teach him the secrets of theodicy, which is what Iyov wants. Right? Iyov wants to know, why am I suffering? And the answer is, because the Satan double-dared God. We know. Yeah, we got it. Okay, fine. But suddenly, if you actually check up the pasuk they're quoting, this isn't an arbitrary Gzera Shaveh. There's a logic. Saying that Moshe wrote Iyov is saying that Moshe, when he was pondering the questions of theodicy, he found the story of Iyov, and he writes a theological treatise, or maybe historical record of a story that is about that. Right? Now, you could add, the second component is that, in the end of the day, what is the resolution to the book of Iyov? Is there a resolution? No, he doesn't tell him why. What does he do? He reveals himself, right? And having a relationship with God is enough. And Iyov says, okay, I don't need to understand. That's actually the pasuk that Moshe gets to, which is not even just how will I know, but right, how will I know that you've agreed to restore the relationship with us? Right? Which is the ending of the book of Iyov, where even without an answer, they restore a relationship. Right? So the fact that it picks a peret where the question is theodicy, and the second thing is the restoration of a relationship with God post-punishment and post-sin, right? Those two themes are obviously central to Iyov. So when they say that Moshe could write it, that's what they're getting at. Now, I don't know the answer to the question. Right? When the Gemara says, well, why didn't you say Yitzchak, Yaakov, Yosef? Because it has the word Apho, so I don't know if they're actually saying it connects to those stories. I don't know. Or it's just disproving that this is a good proof. I honestly don't know. I mean, sure, the Yosef story, Apho Hem Roim, and the middle of Yosef and his brothers is not exactly a bad place to ponder the questions of theodicy, so it could be there. The Yitzchak case, also not terrible, right? Which is where the bracha is stolen out from Esav, and Esav is, and right, the pasuk that it picks is Yitzchak saying, "Oi, I gave the bracha to the wrong person. Where is that person who hunted?" Right? Which is a question of, right, brachot and kol, who gets good and who gets bad, and things being switched. Right? It's not a terrible place to see sort of a fairness question either. The Yaakov one. Let's see. Does the Yaakov one work? Let's see. Mem Gimel Yecholiot. Oh yeah, of course. This also makes sense. Which is, yeah, this actually does make sense. What's the pasuk that it takes by Yaakov? Where Yehuda finally convinces him to send Binyamin down, even though Yaakov already said, "Listen, so many bad things have happened, but I don't have a choice. Good luck. Hopefully nothing bad happens this time, but try to make the best of it by bribing, the viceroy. But, I'm really tired of all the suffering and losing my kids." So all of those actually make a lot of sense, right? Where you could see questions of fairness and good people suffering as the backdrop, right? So it could be just doing more Xer Shabbos, or it could be saying, look, if it's just about theodicy, there were a lot of people in Tanach who had unfairness in their life. Yaakov, Yosef, Yitzchak, take your pick, Avram, find whoever you want, right? That's not a good enough reason to say it's Moshe. So the Gemara says, "Lo sakadai." No, chtiv mi'itein v'sefer v'yachoku u'Moshe who's ikri mechokek. He said it's different. It's not because of the theodicy thing. It's simply because Iyov said, "Let my book be written." He prayed, "I want my story to be told forever," because his friends were challenging him. And he's just like, "This is not fair. You don't understand me. Go away. I want my words written down so one day people will vindicate me." And who is the Michokek, the person who engraves books and laws? Moshe. Right? So in the end, the Gemara seems to say it's not about the theodicy. It's more about Iyov wanting his story to be forever. Right? To be a lesson for other people. And Moshe is like the paradigmatic author of such books. Okay.
Why is Moshe?
Because he is the writer. He's the writer down of Torah. So you'd have to say that the lesson of theodicy is the lesson the whole world needs in the way of Torah, right? I think you have to say something like that.
I'm saying I'm just saying that it's not enough to
Okay, no.
But we have a prolific writing in Judaism, I think that would be the case today.
No, but not as a mechokek. Not as a mechokek. As a mechokek, he used the word mechokek, right? Not the lawgiver, right? And it's interesting that theodicy, the question of theodicy, the book of theodicy should be given that status, but that does seem to be, in the end of the day, what the Gemara says, right? That this question of God's justice is like, right? That deserves a Moshe, essentially. Okay, so that's possibility one. Rava Amar Iyov b'mei miraglim haya. Rava says in the time of the Miraglim, K'tiv hacha ish haya beretz uz Iyov shmo, because Iyov starts off, there was a man in the land of Uz, right, or Oz. What do you think it is? No, he's the sufferer of Oz. I don't know, right? Yes. Uchtiv hatam hayesh ba'etz. And in the Miraglim it says, is there a tree? You know, what's eight? That sounds basically the same thing. And the Gemara says, mi dami hachaut. Don't worry, the Gemara was aware of this. So the Gemara says, wait, mi dami hachaut hacham eight. I'm aware. Those are actually different words, if you didn't notice. Okay? Like, we speak Hebrew. Those are different words. Uts, eight are the same word. So he says, no, you misunderstood. Hachik amar lu Moshe l'Yisrael. Yeshno oto adam sheshnotav aruchot ke'etz umegin al daro ke'etz. He says, no. This is what it means. The Miraglim were worried that they wouldn't win. Why wouldn't they win? Because they were worried that there is a tzaddik amongst the nations in Canaan whose zchut would defend the Miraglim, defend them from the Jews. And who is that person? The eighth Iyov. Okay. So let's try to unpack this one. At one level, what is this suggestion doing? So at one level, it's just doing what we always do in Midrash, which is, yes, exactly, which is, why would the Jews be afraid? Don't they know that God performs miracles? So what's the go-to answer? Yes, God performs miracles, but you have zchut, then maybe they do too. What zchut could they possibly have that is enough to counter the Jews? So Chazal basically say, well, how many non-Jews are there in Tanach that could possibly have a zchut that would scare the Jews? Aha! One. Iyov, because God says he's the man. So if he's the man...
I mean, at the same time, if you're talking about God performing miracles with someone, I feel like Iyov wouldn't be the one to scare about.
Inachinami. But, so at one level, Chazal are just filling in the gap, which is, we need a rational theological justification for why the Jews were afraid that their zchut wouldn't be enough. Answer, big tzaddik amongst the non-Jews. How many do we know? One. Okay, connect the dots, good, end of the story. That's possible. There is another possibility, however, which is, remember, the Miraglim are also questioning God's justice. Right? The Miraglim are also saying, what do you mean? Is what, right? What's good is bad, what's bad is good. Do we really deserve this? Right? You told us, you promised us a good land, and now you put us in a bad land. Right? And we're not going to be able to conquer the, right? Meaning, the Miraglim are also struggling with God's justice of taking out of Mitzrayim and promising they would go there, but then they died for 40 years in the Midbar, right? Didn't happen yet, but I'm saying, like, right? The stories are before and after the Miraglim really do call into question God's justice.
What's the significance of the times in the Miraglim, which is really that 10 times. So I guess that would be one way.
Right. So you'd have to assume that when does it think that Moshe wrote it? So you'd have to say either at different times, either at the end of his life with the end of the Torah, right? Because otherwise it's not that different. You're right. But that also bolsters the fact that maybe this is less saying who wrote it and more making theological points about the book, right? Meaning, is this Moshe as part of his theological journey, or are these the time of the Rambam where the Jews are struggling with understanding God's ways?
So how does this work in Gemara in Sozo, which says that he owns died in the Rambam?
Okay, remember there are about to be 10 deos, so don't, literally, we're just doing 10 positions, okay? Fine. That's position 2. Yativ Hamim Rabbana Kameder of Nachman Vishmol Bar Nachmani V'Yad V'Gamar, and this is the Rambam's favorite position. Iyov lo haya v'lo nivra ela mashal haya. Third position. It never happened. The book never happened. It's a mashal, and this is the Rambam's favorite. It never happened. It's a mashal. It's a real. Amar le alech Amar Kra. And then they challenge him and say, really? The pasuk says, Ishaya be'eretz ut Iyov shmo. Yes, there was a man who lived in Utz. That sounds very metaphorical, right? Ishaya, that doesn't work very well. Now Rashi says, Mashal haya. What does it mean, Mashal haya? L'lmod b'menu tshuvot l'mekatrigim al midat adin v'she'enon nitbas al sa'aro. As a response to those who challenge God's justice, and that people are in, this pasal, yes.
Why is that a contradiction? You did that as a character.
Yes, I know. This is not a very good, if you know anything about, right? That's like saying, what do you mean? Cinderella isn't real. It starts off once upon a time in a land far away. Haraya, there was once upon a time in a land far away, there was a person named Cinderella. Raya, proof, QED, in a Hanami, right? It's not the world's best proof.
The other part of that is it's like, there was a guy named Iyov, he lived Iyov, and presumably by saying, presumably, do we know?
I understand. How could it be that Harry Potter isn't real? He lives in a certain place. He even tells you his address. He even lived at Fort Pruitt Drive in the closet under the stairs. Haraya, he's real. Right? What? And then he moved to the small bedroom. I understand. He switched. I get it. I know. Right? There was once a woman who got caught up in a tornado and landed in a place called right? Okay. So good. Now, obviously, Kosher points out the fact that he never existed goes against other chazals. Yes, we got that. Thank you. Thank you very much. I got it. Someone tell me, why does the Rambam, of all people, why do you think he really likes the idea that this never happened? Right? Why would someone say it's a mashal, it never happened? Why? So one is just you can punt, sure, but there's a bigger reason. It's not just you have to deal with it. First of all, yes, it's set up like a perfect, it's too perfect to be real, right? That's sort of one literary reason, which is, really, someone suffered. His friends came, and each, in turn, gave them their theological explanation of his life. He retorted, they did this again, and then they did this again, and then a fourth person came, yelled at all of them, and then God comes out of the whirlwind and says, none of you understood, right? Meaning, it is like, it's too perfect, right? That's literarily. My guess is that the main reason to say that it's a mashal, what's the main reason to say it's a mashal? That it's just a treatise about theodicy and not actually something that happened? Is the meme we started with, right? Which is, right? Is that the whole story is the stuff I'm saying, I double dare you, God, prove that Iyov is really righteous, and God says, sure, go and torture him. Let's see how this works out. And then, Iyov spends 40 prophets saying, I don't understand, I'm a good person, why is this happening to me? No, really, I'm really a good person, and then at the end of the book, God says, Iyov, were you there when I created the world? You don't know why things happen. But we know why it happened. It happened because this Satan dared you, right? Like, I don't understand. What is exactly the big question here, right? Like, the book is so weird, right? I mean, the main reason today's a mashal is it's weird, okay? It's so weird and so theologically troubling if it happened. Like, God doesn't get into bets with Satan, right? This just, I mean, maybe it does. According to everyone else, it does, right? But like, it's really weird, right? And like, remember, it's not just once. First, he kills all his children, and takes away all his wealth, and he doesn't challenge God. So God says, "See, what'd you make me do that for?" And he says, that's because you didn't make him have boils all over his skin, because people only care about themselves. He said, fine, torture him as long as you don't actually kill him. See how far you can go, and don't take away his friends. It's like, okay. And he does it again, and like, you know, like, if there was ever a parak in Tanach where Christopher Hitchens should rail against God, it's this one, right? Not the ones he does, slavery and misogyny and, you know, whatever. It's, if you ever wanted a parak where God is capricious, right? This is it, right? Where he is dared by the Satan to test his tzaddik twice, and he does it, right? Meaning, there's a very good theological reason to say mashalaya, which is, this is a reflection on theodicy, but God is not that cruel, right? And God doesn't just solve the whole problem by saying, it is beyond you, Iyov, right? It is beyond you. My ways are beyond you. Were you there when I created the world? It's like, no, but the rest of us were there when you made a bet, right? Like, it's in the book. You didn't hide it. It's how the book starts, you know? So the reason they went mashal is that theologically it's really problematic that this actually happened the way, right? Meaning, that's why, despite the fact that Gemara, the one in the Gemara, which the Gemara seems to be least fond of, right? This is the one the Gemara says, right? All the others, the ones like, maybe. This one the Gemara says, no. It said once upon a time. It must have happened, right? But you can see why the Rambam would be fond of it. And to be fair, the Rambam probably was aware of this very shocking fact that saying once upon a time doesn't mean that something actually happened, right? I know this is like, I know I've shattered all your childhoods, right, by saying that. I know you all thought there was a Cinderella and a Snow White and whatever. There wasn't. I'm sorry. I know I've shattered all your childhoods. I get it. It's okay. Adam is like, I've been looking for my princess with the missing shoe, you know. Yeah.
In reality, the only person that goes and has one shoe is that one guy that came with us over the one.
Yeah, exactly. Toto, we're not in Oots anymore. Okay, yeah, so great. Like, in this particular case, the movie's better than the book. Looks terrible. You ever read the book? It's really, it's a very, very in-your-face, like, satire of, like, communism or something.
Apparently, it wasn't supposed to be, by the way.
Oh, really?
The guy himself said he had no ulterior motive when he made his book.
No. I didn't really like the book very much. Anyways,
and everyone's like, what are you talking
about? Fine. So let's look at Tosfos for a minute, though. Tosfos says, "Hi lo savar kereish lakish." This is not like Reish Lakish. The Amar b'Bereshit Rabbah. Iyov lo haya shebao alav yisurin v'lo amar hakadosh shebao alav al yacha kochel shel Iyov shilu bao alav hayachol lamod behem. Di savar hayamara di Iyov haya ba'olam. Im kein my kamar shmo b'shem yiro lo matuva itzrach l'shmina mi hu oto tzadik sheyachol lamod di yisurin. So Tosfos notes that there is a similar position that is in Bereshit Rabbah, which is conceptually similar but solves the problem. And that is, in Bereshit Rabbah, Reish Lakish says, there was a person named Iyov. This just never happened to him. Meaning, in Breshit Rabbah, it says there was a person who, had this happened to him, he could have taken it. But it didn't actually happen to him. So, it's mostly the same in the sense that it's a mashal, right? It's a mashal. It's like saying there is a person whose emunah was enough that he could have handled it, like Iyov, and only gotten away with certain challenges, but it solves the technical, Joseph notes that it solves the technical problem, because once upon a time there was a man named Iyov and he lived in Uz. According to our Gemara, that's a fairy tale. According to the Breshit Rabbah, that one line in the story is true. After that, nothing is true. But there was a man named Iyov, and he lived in Uz. That's true. What happened to him is not, right? So that's like saying, instead of once upon a time there was a girl named Snow White, right? It would be once upon a time there was a person named Angela Merkel, and she hung out with 7 dwarves, and it would be like that's the entire difference in the stories. I don't know if the story would be better or worse if it was Angela Merkel. Okay, I have no idea. Okay, I'm trying to think of a good person to put in there. Okay, we've already used Margaret Thatcher for our other weird imaginative stories. You know, for guys not in my share, we had for a while we had a thing going of, you know, what the relevance for the Staka Sugyas would it be if there was a presidential competition between Margaret Thatcher and Bernie Sanders, and what that would do to the sugya in Baba Basra. You know, I try not to be political, so I have to just be theoretical here. I think it's perfectly clear. Margaret Thatcher versus Bernie Sanders. What's weird about that? Besides that, what is, you know.
The only thing I remember about that is the whole thing
Okay, it doesn't really matter. It matters, but only in the context of the shir. So now I'm using Angela Merkel, okay? You can pick whoever you want. It really doesn't make a difference. My point was just that, yes, my point was simply that the Gemara here is different. I honestly don't know why Tosfos is so convinced by this, right? But Today, what it's telling you is that now it could be that Tosfos is going farther than that. And Tosfos is saying that the purpose of the story, according to Breshit Rabbah, isn't to study theodicy, but it's to tell you how big a tzaddik Iyov was. That he could have handled this. Right? And therefore but I'll be honest, if that's what Tosfos wants for my life, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Right? Meaning, why do you need a 40-plus perek fan fiction about Iyov to explain that he could have, that's like the weirdest fan fiction you ever write. Right? It's like, we are all fans of Iyov's righteousness. Let's write a book about how awesomely he would have handled being tortured by God. That's a really bizarre. If that's what Tosfos means, I sort of give up. I don't know. This is not I don't know what it means. Okay. So the Gemara pushes back and says, that's really not a question. He said, Tanach is aware of what a mashal is. Let me show you. You know, David and Bathsheba, when the Navi came to David, he told him a mashal of a person who stole a sheep from a person who only had one sheep and he had a lot of sheep. You know, that didn't really happen. David stole someone's wife, not their sheep. You know, I did David and Bathsheba with Meir not so long ago, which was a little bit hard to do, honestly, right? But then I let him watch the Veggie Tales. You know what Veggie Tales is? Yeah. Yeah. So they have one on David and Bathsheba, which is about stealing a rubber ducky, because that's how they get the bath scene in, right? Veggie Tales is like a very from Christian TV show that does like Tanach stories, but with singing vegetables. And their treatment of David and Bathsheba is excellent. Okay, I'm just saying it's excellent. No, but you can watch it. My kids like it. But then my kids are like my kids, it's like, watch it, it'll help you. And then like, Aaron loves it, and Meir's like, well, it wasn't right. That's not how it happened in Tanach. I'm like, yes, I know it's not how it happened in Tanach. That wasn't the point. God. Oh, 7-year-old. Anyways, sheesh. So the Gemara says Tanach knows what a mashal is. Ela mashal ba'alma hachanami mashal ba'alma. So the Gemara says Im kain shmo v'shem yiro lama. Why do you have to be so specific and tell you a city, right? What's the point of that? End of story. Yeah, but really, honestly, the answer is yes. I get it. Okay, fine. I think we have to stop there. As we'll see, the Bavli has, I believe, 10 suggestions of when Iyov is written, each of which ties to different thematic things within Iyov. So hopefully next week we'll finish the ones in the Bavli, and I'll print out the Yerushalmi to get, I think it's another 3, right? I think it's 13 total between Bavli and Yerushalmi, and each of them seems to be picking up on a different story. But yes, Yosef, thank you. Good. Wonderful. You're right. You could never have any story that's fiction that tells you where someone lives. It's okay. By your logic, I would like you to go do me a favor and check out 4 Perfect Drive and just let me know how Harry Potter is doing, right? Just let me know how it's going, okay? Because apparently you don't know what fiction is, right? Now, to be fair, I have to ask this to the Gemara because the Gemara apparently took this as a good question, right? And moved on. I honestly, this is where, my question to the Gemara is, did they not read fairy tales as children? The answer is apparently not, right? Apparently fiction was not a genre. What? You would think, but no. Oh, the Midrash said they gave an address. I mean, like,